asked for some tips on back bending, and I could say a lot of things about back bending. But today I'm going to give some of my top tips. Number one, before you start practicing back bends, and this is especially for those of you who struggle with back bends, warm up your whole body. So you want to have heat built up everywhere in your body, whether you want to do some jogging in place, some jumping jacks, or if you're in that yoga mode, some sun salutes. I would recommend not only sun salutes A, but especially some sun salutes B, where you're including warrior 1, because that leads into my next tip. When you are doing warrior 1, you're stretching some of the key muscles that you want to stretch open before back bending. So tip number 2, after you have some heat built in your entire body, think about the shape of a back bend and what happens when you go into a back bend. So when you are bending back, it's the back of your body, everything in the back of your body is contracting and squeezing. So these are the muscles that are working. And then the front side of your body is what's stretching. So your hip flexors, or the space between your hips and your thighs, need to be very open. And your thighs, belly, chest, shoulders need to be very open. So warrior 1, in warrior 1 stance, the back leg is getting stretched on the hip flexor and the thigh. So alternately, instead of warrior 1, I like to warm up for back bends with just lunges, back heel lifted off the mat. And I like to come really deep into the lunge, setting the back foot down and focusing on sinking forward into the lunge so that you really start to feel the stretch on the quad, the thigh, and the flexor of the back leg. Additionally, to stretching out your thighs and your hip flexors like that, you want to extend your front. So in a high lunge or a warrior 1, just go back to the warrior 1, with the arms up, you're extending through your arms and your shoulders. You're also extending through your spine. So even though I'm talking about the back is contracting in a back bend, you still want to build some space in the back before moving into a back bend. Right, so extend the arms, the shoulders. You might just do any kind of motion in the shoulders that warms them up. Roll the shoulders. The shoulder clock against the wall is a great opener for the shoulders before back bending. So tip number 1, heat in the body. Tip number 2, stretch out your front body, make some space in your spine, and try to think about keeping some of that space in your spine when you're working into your back bends. So I'm going to talk about 3, or I'm going to demo 3 quintessential back bends. They're all symmetrical back bends that I'm hitting on today. That means that the entire body, the right and left side are in the same shape in these back bends. And the first one is really mild, but what I like about bridge pose is how it can teach you good pelvic tilt to use in more advanced back bends. So, lying on the back, feet down on the floor, close to your hips. Your feet are parallel, your feet are hips width distance apart. Right? And you have this natural arch in your lower back. And so we're going to reduce that natural arch in the lower back by pressing the low back down to the mat. And when you do that, press your low back down to the mat or the floor, your pelvis is going to tilt slightly upwards. What this does is it creates more space in your lower back and it activates your front core muscles. So this pelvic tilt is really good to maintain when you're doing back bends, especially if you tend to sink and feel pain in your lower back. So we're going to press the lower back down and then press down into the heels and try to keep the pelvis tilted upwards as we come up into that bridge pose. And when you come into that bridge pose, you try to maintain your pelvic tilt, work your strong legs, press down into the floor with your heels, and then lift your chest towards your chin. So some of these cues are going to come in to the next two back bends. Pelvic tilt, chest towards chin, strong legs. All right, let's move on to camel pose, Ustrasana. Standing on the shins, your knees are hips width distance apart, and that is just lining up with your hip bones, not the outside of your hips, but lining up with your hip bones. Now to find that pelvic tilt, right, just a little notch of lengthening your tailbone straight down, pulling your frontal hip points up towards your lower ribs so you feel your belly engage. Now if you struggle with camel pose, I recommend working on it with your hands on your lower back, using the hands to keep that space in the low back. Right? So you start to lift your chest towards your chin and press the hips forward. Lift your chest towards your chin and press the hips forward. Trying to keep all that space in the lower back as we go back. Chest to chin, hips forward, chest to chin, hips forward. Now, only if you feel comfortable with all that, you can go into a full camel pose, bringing the hands to the heels, right? And try to keep on lengthening down through your tailbone, lifting up through the center of your chest. So let me just come into a nice full camel for a few breaths. So one thing I like to, that I like about camel pose, when we're talking about doing proper back bends, is you really can focus on keeping the space in your lower back and keeping the space in the back of your neck. So if you struggle and you feel uncomfortable, pain in the low back, pain in the neck, tightness in the shoulders when you do back bends, think about the natural curvature of the spine. You already have a bend that goes inwards in your neck and your cervical spine. You already have a bend that goes inwards in your lower back. It's the middle back and the upper back, the thoracic spine, that kind of curves this way. So when you are doing a back bend like camel pose, think about focusing on the middle back and the upper back, doing the arching. Focus on bringing the chest forward and up so that you're creating arch in the upper back and not sinking into the lower back or crunching and crushing the neck muscles. So you don't want to crunching, the cervical spine. So we're not going to jump the throat forward and just let the head fall back. We're going to lift. And that is some work on your neck, by the way. You're going to lift. So, moving on, third and probably and most challenging quintessential back bend. In fact, this pose to me it's absolutely one of my favorites, and I still struggle with it, especially because I do get really tight in my shoulders. Upward facing bow, or Urdhva Dhanurasana. So for this pose, everything that I've talked about applies. And we start just like we started in bridge pose. Feet down to the floor, hips width distance perfectly parallel. It's common for feet to start to splay out. Try to avoid that. Try to keep your toes pointing straight ahead. Right, so we're in that bridge pose preparation shape, and we're going to press the lower back down to the mat, getting that forward pelvic tilt. Then bring the hands down to the floor, beside the ears, under the shoulders, with the fingertips pointing down towards your heels. Then keep that pelvic tilt, lift your hips off the mat. Then press down into your hands, just come up onto the crown of your head. When you get there, push your elbows in towards one another, or squeeze your elbows in towards one another. Keep on driving down into your heels, down into the hands, and then straighten up the arms to come up to your full Urdhva Dhanurasana. Once you get there, keep your legs strong, driving down into the heels, and press your chest now forward. It's not moving so much towards the chin now, as it's moving through the arms, pushing forward, forward, forward with the chest. To come down, just kind of reverse it, try to take it slow, sliding onto the back of your head. And then for some relief after that big back bend, hug your knees to your chest, rock side to side. Now, the back bend that I was actually asked about is a step up from Urdhva Dhanurasana. It's coming down onto the forearms, and that is, some people call it forearm wheel, or it's inverted, two-legged inverted staff pose when translated. The way that I enter this pose normally is from Urdhva Dhanurasana. So I'll go up into that upward bow. Then I'll lower down onto my head and bring the forearms to the floor. Should have put my hair in a ponytail because it's in the way. With forearms on the floor, then drag down into those forearms, lift the head and push the chest forward. And to come out, hands back to the mat, back of the head, and again, give yourself a hug. So for that pose, for the forearm wheel, you definitely want your shoulders warmed up a lot. So those are some of my tips. Amanda, this video is for you, and I hope anyone else out there seeing it finds it helpful if you're working on your back bends.